All right, so what we're going to do is we are going to find the basic shapes of this horse. Now, this is the exact picture that is in Google Classroom. The only thing that I did to it was I desaturated it, which means I made it black and white. I took away the color. If you want to also take away the color for this, as we're going to be drawing it using pencils, all you need to do is go Image, Adjustments, and at the very bottom right here is Desaturate. Now, for this, we are going to need to create two new layers. And if you don't remember where, the layers are down here. So this is the trash can, this is the layers, and I'm going to click that twice. Now, I'm also able to rename my layers, and it's a great habit to rename layers. So you should just do it and get used to it. So we're going to double click on top of the layer, and it allows us to change it. I'm going to call that one Basic Shapes. And layer 1, I'm going to change to a fill layer. Now, I always like to work with a fill layer because it allows me to turn it off and on and see my progress. For the fill layer, I'm going to make that black. I'm going to do that by using the paint bucket. And again, it allows me to turn it off and on. The next thing I'm going to do is using Basic Shapes, I'm going to come in here and break down the horse into a more manageable drawing or a more manageable image for me to draw. So the way I'm going to do that is the same way I do almost everything in Photopea, and that is using the navigator. So I have my bar right here. However, if your navigator does not show up in this bar, you simply need to go to Window and down to Navigator, so you can get to it from either way. Now again, the navigator is a great tool that lets us zoom in and out and move around our section quickly. So the first thing we're going to do to find basic shapes, as I know some of you don't know what we're even looking for, is we want to find all of the ball joints, or where anything can move, basically. So on a human, I have my elbow, and if my elbow can bend, that is a circle. My shoulder can rotate, so that is also going to be a circle. Anywhere that we basically can move or bend these body parts are going to be circles, and the horse is no different. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to select a nice bright color, like this. I'm going to use the paintbrush tool, and I'm going to make sure my setting is all the way down to 1. We want it to be really fine. And I'm going to go around the horse and find anywhere that it would be able to bend and put a circle in. Now when we draw the basic shapes on paper, I typically tell students to go around 2 to 3 times. And again, keep in mind I'm using a mouse, so it's a little more difficult than just using my hand. Also, make sure you are working on the basic shapes layer. If you're working on the horse layer or the fill layer, you're going to have a problem. All right? And if you can see your fill layer, well, then you got a problem too, because it should be off. So again, I'm going to just go around, and anywhere that the horse bends, I'm going to put my circles. And he actually also has little joints in here. And you can't see that one. Now I'm going to look for these larger areas. And basically, if you look at the horse, you know that it has basically hips, essentially, like we do, all the way up in here or back here. So again, right around where the horse's butt is, we can see that the leg comes in and there's a hip joint. So again, I'm going to go around that, and I'm going to do that twice, just to try to get my best lines. And again, we're going to move here and do the same thing. You can almost see the curve in the top of the shoulder blade there, and bring that down. Again, it's not necessarily, we're not talking about making it a perfect circle or anything like that. We're just trying to find it. Also, if you think about the neck area, so this is definitely a curving area, but here, again, you can almost see a curve. So we're going to go ahead and put a round circle here for the head. And then for the actual snout on the horse, we're going to make kind of an oval. And for this, I'm going to come up here and make it more of an oval like that. Overlapping your basic shapes, there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, it kind of helps you because when you go to draw, you can measure the distances and how they do overlap. All right, so I would say we have most of the circles here. And now all we're going to do is come in, and you could make this into an oval, but I'm going to just make it a rectangle. And we're basically going to finish up all of the shapes that we see in the horse. Now, again, we can make the shapes, they're still simple shapes, but for example, this is going to be a triangle, but I'm not necessarily, oh, be careful, I just lost my line. I'm not necessarily making a, it's not like a isosceles triangle or anything. It's more about just trying to make it something easier for your brain to comprehend. Even the mane on the horse we can make happen. And that way our brain knows where the fur is going to go versus the horse. And some areas, like down here, I mean, we could put another circle in here. I'm just going to leave it blank for now. This is going to become kind of a triangular shape. And basically, we're just going to identify every part of the horse. Almost as though, imagine if the horse were a stick figure. And we've done the, like I've talked about drawing humans in this manner, but not so much animals. And again, I'm just going through the entire horse and breaking it down into basic shapes. And again, you should know the basic shapes already, but just in case, we have circles, we have squares, and we have triangles. And again, none of this needs to look exactly perfect. What we're trying to do, though, is get the correct sizes and relationship of where they are. Okay, let's zoom out. So this is my basic horse, and again, I know that we can put another circle in here. Now, here's the thing. If I do this correctly, when I turn on my fill layer, we should still see the horse, even though it's made of basic shapes, which you can. Now, the reason that we want to do this is because, again, it allows our brain to see very simple shapes, and we are able to draw these better. And the thing is that if you go to draw the horse just like this, your brain doesn't maybe see the angles that we really need to see. So imagine, if you will, let's just put red. Now, you're not going to draw this part on here, but if we were looking at the basic shapes, we can really see things like the angle of the horse's back, where he's, his back and his tail, and that nice straight line. And if we drew that same angle on our paper when we do our drawing of our horse, it's going to look realistic. But by seeing these, we're able to see a lot of these areas like, hey, look, the horse's nose goes all the way down to like where its shoulder is. We could look at the distance between, the hoof here, and it connects almost to the, where the hip comes out of the leg. Okay, but all of these are things that your brain could look at. Oops, I did those on the wrong layer. Thank goodness for undo, right? Or the history bar here. But all of those allow us to see the angle and simplify our drawing. Now, the basic shapes are extremely important because, again, they allow us to size things. So we can even look at it and say, hey, what is the size of this hip versus this hip? And if you notice, they're pretty much the same size circles. So if you went to draw those circles and they weren't the same size on your paper, then you already have a problem before you get any further. And that's really the main benefit of drawing using basic shapes. And again, everybody can draw a square, triangle, and a circle. And if we break everything down from those shapes, everybody can draw everything. So this is how I want you to complete the assignment. You can also click up here where it says New Project, and you can name it whatever you want. And then you're going to go File. And you could save this as a PSD and turn it in. It'll save just like that. And if you save it as a PSD, it's nice because then you can still turn these off and still draw your horse for the DOD assignment. However, you can start like this. So again, you would just go File, Save as PSD, and it's going to download your file as a PSD, and you can attach it to the assignment. This concludes how to find and draw basic shapes using Photopea.